Good evening, everybody. Brian here. Thank you very much for giving me the privilege of looking at your images and making comments on them. I hope you find my comments useful. I found the images very interesting. There's a wide variety, both in topic and ability. So thank you very much for giving me that challenge to sort out this into some sort of sequence or order. Here we go with the first image. The first image, the great grey owl. I really like the composition on this one. I think the choice of the square format is really good. The eyes are so domineering, aren't they? You can't get away from them. And then there's the beak forming the triangle there. A nice diagonal line going through the nose and another diagonal line going through the eyes makes it really pleasant to look at. I also like the fact that you used a square crop. I think that works very well in this image. In fact, what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to hold this one back for more information later. The second image, looking cool. Interesting. I like the idea. Placing this character in the middle of this scene and then all this sort of information going around him. The emphasis on looking cool, so I'm supposed to look at him more than I am around the outside. Unfortunately, one of the problems with something called visual mass is that text tends to pull the eye away from things. Visual mass does say that people will pull the eye first, so I think that's where I start. But then I start to look at the signs around the outside there. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, signs there that are pulling my eye away from the subject. It's not a subject I find convinced that he actually was there. I'm not saying he wasn't, I'm just saying I don't find he was actually convincing that he was there. Personally, I would have preferred him somewhere in this area here, possibly just a little bit further forward, a little bit to the right. There is a gap here, which he could have gone into, rather than actually overlapping with that notice board there. So there's a couple of things with this one. The tones are very good, I like that. Unfortunately, because it's all brickwork, it does become a bit monotonous and very samey, but it's sort of working. But I will give this one 16. The pier head, a very difficult subject to photograph. I like the use of the border, that's good. I think what you've chosen in the image is a good selection. Your framing is quite good. The tones in the image are good. I think the problem with this one is that there is no real point of interest for the eye to settle. You roam around, and I think if the same as me, you keep getting pulled up to the bright area at the top left-hand side, up into this area here. I have considered cropping it, and I can't see anything that would work any better. So I think what you've done is the best you can with what is there. I think your tones have been well handled. But for me, it's not really working, so I'm going to give this one 15. Shades of Lincoln. A view we've all seen quite regularly. The use of the telephoto lens has actually compacted the view. This looks as though there's no gaps in between these buildings here and the actual cathedral. The sky is grey and overcast, which is always tricky to work in. It's sort of given the image a very flat feel. That, again, with the use of the telephoto lens and the way it's been processed, have sort of flattened the image. It doesn't have any 3 dimensions. It's a shame, really, because it's a good scene. The only thing I would suggest to you is it's a possibility to consider that it might have looked better just as a square crop, something like that. But then that's your decision. I'm just looking at it and thinking it might be a possibility. So again, well done for seeing it, well done for taking it. A good range of tones. Just do be a little bit careful down this edge here. Can you see where the white line is coming there? A slight sign that there might have been some over processing, but overall a pleasing image. I'll give this one 15. The Humber Bridge. A scene I've photographed myself many times. I'm always looking for something different, and that's something that's getting very difficult these days, having taken so many images of it. A good idea with this image to use a relatively wide angle lens. I think you've done the right sort of thing. That's the only way you can get both towers in, unless you come further to your right and then sort of go down that way and move a bit along. I'm not sure about this area at the bottom here. I think it sort of doesn't add anything. If I can just show you something, if you consider what information that actually contains, it doesn't contain a great deal. And one of the tricks that I was shown when I was judging earlier on was that if you sort of look at an area and there's not much in it, then you ask the question, why did the author include it? And you need to come up with an answer that suggests a reason. I can't really come up with an answer for this one. I'm not sure if even cropping, if you were to crop it slightly tighter, it might work slightly better. In fact, I think that does work better. But again, you've made the decision. I've marked it on what you've done there, and I'm giving this one 15. Out, whatever the weather, the guys out in the rain as they do. I followed a lot of cycle racing. My son got into the top 10 in the national series at one stage, so I followed quite a lot of this over the years. This is a good viewpoint you've taken, head on with the riders coming towards you, again using a telephoto lens which is compacting the riders, adds to the situation. You've got it nice and sharp, you can see the guy's eyes, the tones are quite good, a little bit dark for me. I'm not too keen on the over dark images. You've used a fairly heavy vignette around the edges, particularly around this area here and around here. I'm getting the impression that this is to hide a multitude of sins that are in the background and to make it look a little bit more acceptable. Not really working too well. The dark vignette down this corner here again doesn't really work for me. What I will say is that I'll give this one 16. Model Messerschmitt 108. Okay. The good sharp image. Interesting the toning you've used. I think that is working. The actual aircraft itself is very, very sharp. I like the idea of leaving it on the right hand side and up in the sky. I think that is good. I'm not completely convinced with the light vignette you've used. I think that is probably not completely appropriate. The only thing I would really say with this one is if you'd waited a fraction of a second, it would only be a fraction of a second. The tail fin would not have been within that area there. It might have been well into this blank space here, which I think would have made it a little bit more interesting. Anyway, a very pleasing image, and I will give that one 17. Pigeon for dinner. Okay, we've had this happen in our garden a couple of times. The falcon comes in, takes whatever is available, sits on the grass and strips it. You've chosen to put the bird up in the top right hand corner looking out of the image. Shame really, it's got to be there because what you wanted to show was all the feathers down this side here. I'm not convinced that particularly adds again to the image. Again, if I was looking at this one, I would seriously consider using a slightly different crop, something like, get it right eventually, bear with me. So I'm giving the bird a little bit more space to look out relative to what's around him. I'm looking at this distance here and this one here, possibly just pull that back a little bit. So that distance is roughly the same. And then we've got this little lead in now rather than the long lead in that you had, which brings it into this area here. That's a possibility that it might improve it. Again, it's your image, you've chosen to do it that way around. So again, I'm marking this version, and for this one I'm going to give you 15. Threshing. Now this is potentially a very good image. Having said that, obviously I've got some reservations. The dark shades are very good, the white shades are there. The only problem is that this sort of the area here, the actual threshing machine, is a little bit over dark in itself. It could have done with possibly selecting that and brightening it up a little bit. Now, what I do like about this is I like the inclusion of the wing mirror down here. Some people will say they don't like that, and there, of course, is the photographer handling this camera. So that, I think, adds to it. Like I said with one of the other images, it's this area here that may not add to it. It shows the vastness of the space here, but there's little space here for him to move into. So for this particular image, again, I would recommend thinking about what you might leave in and what you might leave out, and whether you might consider something a little bit more like that, which I think is a stronger image personally. Anyway, well done. For what you actually produced, I will give that 16. The old church door, good idea. You've got the brickwork, you've got the tones in the door, you've got the slates on the roof, the steps, all the moss and the lichen and the ivy growing around it. All these things should work nicely. I think the wall has been handled fairly well. The door for me is just a little bit over dark around the edges here. If you look into this corner, there's not a lot of detail there. It is nice and sharp. It's well handled in that respect. I would just like to sort of made the door a little bit more of a focus. I find because the outsides are brighter, I'm being pulled out a little bit. The other thing is the door is neither on the centre nor off centre particularly. Again, I would personally have probably pushed it over to one side. I think this side here has less going for it. There's less detail of interest in it, and there seems to be more on this side which you might have included. So I might have been tempted to put that on the right hand side. I like the fact that you've left this part of the roof in, that's fine. I like the fact that you've left the steps in and you have managed to square everything up. Well done from that point of view. So again, for this image, I will give it 16. Celine, a very well handled image. Beautiful tones going from very darks to very lights all the way through there. The subject is nice and sharp. The background is out of focus. Not blurred but soft, giving us this sort of spooky thing. Could well be a painted backdrop by the look of it. Again, I'm not quite convinced on the crop, but it's fine. It's what is going on around the outside. Again, if I just show you what I'm thinking about, I'm looking at something like that and thinking I don't particularly want to see this area here. There's not a great deal going on in it. There's not a lot down here to make it worth looking at, and that is enclosing the young lady a little bit tighter, which I think may well work better. But again, I think that is very good. I will hold this one back. Proud in his workshop, really good portrait, this one. I think you've done well to actually get the lighting sorted out. I think his placement in the photograph is possibly central. I'm not sure about. I like the fact that you've got such detail considering the lighting that was probably available to you. Again, what I would suggest is that down this side you have a certain amount of text here. Even though it's foreign, you're still going to look at it. You're going to still decide, sort of oscillating between these two things here, him and the text. So I think if I had the option there, I would have cropped that side out. I'd have lost that. I know I can't do it properly, but if I just show you what I mean, if I bring this down this way and put him onto that side, then I think that works. I might lose a little bit at the top of this one particularly. Something like that. I know I've got the calendar behind him, but now I've not got this mess here to pull my eye quite so much. I would have probably included more on the right hand side to see what all these tools were down here as well. But again, well done, well handled, works well in monochrome, and I'm going to give that one 16. Stranded. I like this image. I like the fact that you've used the letterbox crop. I like the tones you've created throughout the image. It's working really well for me. I like the fact that you've got this central horizon here with the reflections in the bottom half and the sheep in the top half. No need to worry, the dominance is in the top, it's not being pulled down here. Bits of texture here, bits of texture up there, all working together nicely. And I think you've got a lovely triangular composition down there as well, which I think also is working. So I think that does work very well, and I'll hold that one back. The Spanish shadow. Again, this is a subject that's been well seen. Again, shadows usually work nicely in monochrome. I like the inclusion that you've made. I putting the lamp on the right hand side and the pipe going down to it on the corner of the wall there. I like the inclusion of all the hanging baskets there, fixed in the brackets all across the wall. The problem with these sort of images is where do you start and where do you stop? And you've got a little bit of a mess down this side here, which is a little bit a shame. But over this side you've got this one pot here which goes off the edge there. My own thought on this would be I'd probably clone that one out just to get rid of that area and leave the white space, and possibly that peg up there as well, so there's no distractions down this edge to pull the judge's eye across basically. Again, as I say, it should work nicely. The tones are quite well handled. You've squared things up nicely. This side is square to the edge, that is square to the edge. And being honest with you, if that line is close to this edge, then it's important that it is actually parallel to it. Similarly with this one down here, it's close to the bottom edge. It needs to be parallel to it. Otherwise, that is really going to annoy people when they look at it. So for this one, I'm going to give this one 16. The light and the power, an interesting composition. I think the author's seen this and handled it well. It's a very brave composition, because if we look at it, there's virtually nothing in the top here, and the first thing I would say, as I'm not going to particularly complain about that, I think you've used a fairly heavy gradient vignette down there to push the eye back into the picture, which I think is working. I like the extreme placement of this lighthouse on the left hand side. This is the sort of thing that Michael Freeman would like to encourage. And then you've got the extreme placement of the wind farm right across this horizon here, which is very low in the frame. Again, I think both of these items work. If anything, the tones just around here are a little bit dark. I would possibly lighten them up slightly just to bring a bit more detail into that area there. But I'm going to hold that one back anyway. Bottlenose dolphin, incredibly well seen this one, and well taken. I think you've done well to get it sharp. Your shutter speed has been pretty good, to say the least, and your focusing very good indeed, immaculate really. We've even got a bit of a line shadow on here from somewhere. I'm not quite sure where that's coming, whether it's texture in the muscles or what, but the detail in the dolphin is absolutely fantastic. Then we've got the beautiful reflection down here, and then the water trace there. If anything, I might have been considering moving him slightly off centre, so I would probably have lost this side, this right hand side. Again, is there anything adding in there? You might say the water is, but I don't think we need it all personally. I think it'd be better to have more space on this side to move into. No more than there is, but to have lost that side there, to have done a slightly different crop, I think might have been more appealing. For this one, I'm going to give it 17. The Stellar Sea Eagle, beautiful photograph of this bird, lots of detail there. You can see the details in the paws around here on the beak, the details of the scratches on this area here, details in the eye, some brightness in there as well to make it look lifelike. Loves the details in the feathers around this area, and nice bits of brightness coming along these edges here. My only thought again with this one, it might be improved by cropping it. I'm not fully convinced that the central placement of the eye is working. It's always worth a consideration. I don't say always do it, but always consider placing things a little bit more. That won't quite go on the thirds, but it will actually go on what is called the golden mean, which is just slightly inside there. In fact, you might place it there, which would be actually on the golden mean then, and I think that might work slightly better. But again, nothing. It's a small point. Well done. I'm going to hold it back anyway. The next one, sunflowers in mono. Again, a well chosen subject. I like the fact that you framed it into this nice little letterbox format. I'm not too keen on the border. The border is actually pulling my eyes out to the right hand side all the way around here. I think you could have lost quite a lot of that border. You're designing this for a judge to look at, not for a postcard or anything, so I think I would have lost some of that area there. I think the detail in here is good, but I think you could have probably improved it if you'd have done a bit of selective enhancing on the yellows possibly, and separate them from the greens. It can be done in Lightroom quite easily, but again I'll still hold this one back. Tallinn Cathedral, really strong monochrome image this one. I like your choice of crop, I think that works well. I think you've got this nice triangular composition in this top area here, which I think is fantastic. I like the fact that you've got the shadows coming in on this side, giving it good 3 dimensions. You've taken it on the quarter edge, which is good, and I think that again is adding to it. So we've got lightness on this side with shadow on this side, and it's all very well handled. The tones are well handled. The plain sky is fine. Not too much worry. The only thing I would suggest possibly, if you're going to get really fussy, is I think this slight tapering in of the verticals could have been corrected quite easily in Photoshop, and I think that might have improved it a little bit. Anyway, I'll hold that one back. Shady Guys, this is very well done. I like the fact that you've chosen to take this particular photograph. I like the overlap between the two faces. The noses are on the same line, the mouths are on the same line, and the eyes are sort of on the same line on that curve this time. And there's lots of detail going in around here and around here. The background is nice and dark, yes, fine. The depth of field probably isn't quite as good as it could have been. It seems to go okay for this character here, but the guy in the back there is beginning to get just a little bit soft. Your treatment, I think, could have been a little bit more gritty. It wouldn't have hurt, but again, I think that's a very good image, but I'm going to give that one 17. Farming is not all blue skies. No, it isn't. This is a very difficult photograph to try and take because it's gone so flat. The interest is not particularly good. The placement on the right hand side I think is working. Because of the subject matter, I think this lack of information in this part here actually creates an atmosphere for this one. I think the unfortunate thing is that he's just too far into the mist for you to see anything at all. It's just made a very soft, very bland image, which is a shame. But very well done for trying to take it. Unfortunately, that one's only going to get 14. The rose, yes, it is a rose. Taken in the garden, probably under quite strong sunlight after rain. We've got the raindrop down here, just the one. Possibly another couple there, actually, having said that. There's some interesting tones around here. The depth of field is just about okay. I'm not ever so convinced about the sharpness in this area here, which I don't know how that's happened. It seems to be very strange that it isn't. Again, I can't access any of the data to work out what's going on, but it's just not quite as detailed as it could be. Could be camera shake, it could be anything. The crop, interesting, it sort of works, I'm happy with that, but overall it's not particularly working for me as an image, so that one is going to get 14. The old workhouse, yeah, this is a good image. The author has thought about this one, gone into the building and decided the dilapidation is worth photographing. Again, it's a subject that usually works well in monochrome. You've created good blacks and right through to the whites. You've managed to keep the detail in the window, which is good. The outside view is still there. Lots of beautiful detail in the hand basin here, the radiator, and whatever this was here. It's a towel rail possibly. You can see all the detail, the old plumbing, the paper's peeling off. My only little niggle with this one is I would personally have liked to have seen the edge of this window. But again, it's a small niggle. I'll hold that one back anyway. Weathered U-bolt, yes. Good blacks on this one, good whites, fine. A little bit concerned that the detail in this area is a little bit lost, probably to hold the sky, again with a little bit of selective processing on this area here. You could probably brought out more detail in it by lightening the light bits and probably pushing a little bit more into the shadow area, but it would only want to be on that area there, so it's going to be quite a tricky process to deal with. That bush there is a little bit distracting. I think I might have been tempted to play with that one and try and get rid of it. The other thing I'm just noticing underneath here is there's a little bit of white lining underneath the bolt there, which is a symbol that there might be some pushing in the processing. But overall, not a bad job, and I'll give that one 15. Sand dancers. This one really has me a little bit confused. I don't know whether this is somebody else's artwork, and it's a photograph of a poster or something like that. If not, the treatment is very interesting. I don't know how the heck it's been done, which doesn't really matter. It looks very much like a greetings card might look from somewhere abroad. To me, I like the use of the tones, the sepia toning. I think that works. The actual treatment of the image is interesting. It's when I look at this line here that makes me wonder what it's all about. The line going across the top there. So I'm very unsure about this one, and I've hedged my bets with the marking on this one. I've given it 16. Reflections of Elton. So we've got the music in the foreground there and the spoons laid on top of it. I think the depth of field on this image has been handled very well. It's soft at the beginning here, going to be sharp. The sharp area is right across there, which is good. It's maintained the sharpness in the spoons, in the reflections up there. In fact, if anything, they're slightly more sharp. We've got this lovely trio of spoons with a little bit of shape into it, and then we're going off into the softer areas at the back here. And we've got the darkness at the back here pushing the eye down into the picture, and we've got the brightness here and the softness pulling the eye into the picture. The use of the extreme letterbox is working very well, so again I'm going to hold that one back. Crane Dance, ingenious title, I like that. I think having the ability to see this image is the first thing I must give the author credit for. The way the relationship with the cranes is built there, I think works very well, and I can see the association of crane dance when you've seen the Japanese cranes doing their dances and so on. So it all works very well together. I think the use of the tones in this one is very good. I did look at cropping it, but nothing works any better than what you've done so well seen. I think it's about a 4:3 crop, so again I'll hold that one back. Heron in flight. An interesting image. I like the fact that you've placed the heron at the bottom left hand corner flying into the image. I like the fact that there's plenty of space on this right hand side. I'm not too disturbed by the background being there. What I am disturbed by is the way the background appears to be handled. It looks to me as if this is sort of man-made, out of focus area rather than being natural. It looks again like a disguise job to me, and I'm sorry that for me that's not really working. This bright area here is what is pulling my eye rather than looking at the bird, which is there. I'm not quite sure what else you could have done with it, but there again, if I'd have seen the original image it might have given me more. I mean, the other thing is, if you're doing something up there, don't forget to play about down here at the same time, because the reflection should be an accurate reflection of that. So I think there are some giveaways possibly with that one, and I'm going to give that one 17. I couldn't believe my eyes. I think this is a really fantastic image. I think the concept behind it is absolutely incredible. Just for those who haven't noticed, it's this character up here, the diver, that is it's pulling the eye, which is good. I like the fact that the upright is on the third, and this is on sort of the golden mean here. We've got this nice triangle of the blades there coming out. That was beautifully horizontal, ready for the diver. You hold the horizontals down here. My only little niggle with this one is I personally would have got rid of that brightness in that area there, and probably these and that one there, and that log, I would have lost that log by just cloning a piece across there, because they're just small distractions that are going to pull you away. They keep pulling the eye down from what you want me to look at, which is up there. Having said all that, well done. I'm going to hold that on back. And this is the final image for the monochrome. The cyclist, pedal power. Again, I do a lot of cycling, as I said before. This one is a very good nearly photograph. You've done very well. You've got the young lady in the right place in the frame. You've frozen her body, if you like, while retaining the movement of the wheels. So your shutter speed is about bang on. What there is a slight issue with is the panning speed at which you've chosen to take it. I don't know whether you stopped your panning without following through, but something just allowed her to get, there's nothing quite sharp. If you look, it's just a little bit soft everywhere, which is usually an indication that the panning speed is not quite matching the speed of the cyclist. Remember, with panning, the idea is that you keep a focus point on the cyclist in the same part of the frame as you move across. But do remember, when you're panning, do not stop as soon as you take the photograph. Pan right through and follow the cyclist even further, and then let go of the shutter button. If you don't, the chances are you'll release the shutter button and the cyclist will move relative to you just slightly, just enough to make the photograph soft. The other thing with this one is, again, I think it might have been worth considering cropping it down to a slightly different format. I think that personally for me makes a much stronger image, but well done anyway. Very difficult. You've done quite well, so I'm going to give that one 16. Right, that brings me to the holdbacks. Right, okay, I'm just flicking through them to see where they are. It's going to be easy for me to go through them and tell you the marks as we go through them. The Great Grey Owl, this one I said I really did like, and I do like it. I like it that much that I'm going to give it 20. This young lady, Celine, again, because I did a little bit thought about the crops on this one's going to be 19. Stranded, again, I like this one not quite as much as the other two, so I'm going to give this one 18, but well done all the same. The light and the power, just a little bit of concern about odd things in this one, like the tones, so this one is going to come down to a 17. The Stellar Sea Eagle, again, well done with that one. I'm just not quite sure about the crop on this one, but I'm going to give that one 18. Sunflowers, just that little bit of worry about the lack of contrast in this area here. I'll give that one 17. Tanning Cathedral, the verticals again, just enough to hold it back a little bit. I'll give that one 17. The old workhouse, I did have this reservation on this side, but I'm only going to be slightly picky with that one. Give that one 19. Reflections of Elton, I think this is very well done, and that one I'm going to give 20. Crane Tats, this is well well observed. It doesn't quite hold up to some of the others, so I'll give that one 18. I couldn't believe my eyes just because these odd bits down the bottom are just pulling my eye away. Again, I'll give that one 18. And I think that's it. So that's it. So well done everybody, and thank you for letting me have a look at your images. I will now go away and work out what to do with the colour images and come back to you later on. Okay, thank you. Bye.